Hi, this is a special meeting with the mayor, and today we have a special guest, our senator, our very own Senator Juan Chuy Hinojosa. Senator, glad to be here for us. Thanks.
Well, thank
today.
you, Mayor, for inviting me, and to discuss the census. Just such an important subject matter.
Yeah. Now, your district runs all the way from Corpus to McAllen, so you're concerned about the census for the whole state, obviously, but especially your district. And so, how's it going up north? Can you give us a little report on that?
Well, it seems like throughout the whole state of Texas, the census count is low. It's not going as well as we anticipated and as well as we would like it to be. So we need to push that people register for the census. Same challenges we have here in the Rio Grande Valley are the same we have up in Corpus Christi, coastal Bend area, and throughout different regions of the state.
And census is so important for a lot of different reasons, but in Texas and other states, it's the federal government money that comes in is based on the census, and it's kind of based on the baseline that we establish right now. For the 10 minutes you're going to take to do it, it's going to be 10 years from now that's going to be affecting our ability to provide health care, school things, a myriad of things, highway money for our citizens.
Mayor, you're exactly correct. I don't think people really realize the importance and the impact that a accurate census count means to our valley, to our communities. The census is taken every 10 years, and we count every single person. And the reason that's important is that in the whole United States, we only have 435 congressional seats. And Texas has gained in population the last 10 years. We gained additional congressional seats 10 years ago, 2. We will gain another 3. So that gives more influence and more votes in Congress. But on top of that, the census is really used for everything. We'll make decisions from our business community to funding different programs, allocation of money, and also how we divide the seats in the legislature. So it's important. And I think you hit the nail on the head. When you talk about education, when you talk about housing, when you talk about transportation, all that is federal funds that are distributed based on the number of people, the census.
Our community development block grant money that we've gotten over the years from the federal government really has had major impact on projects in our low-income neighborhoods, and is so very important. And that's strictly based on the census. And so if you don't have the census, you don't get the money. And we keep talking about that, but it is so important because so much of the money that we use for all those projects comes from the federal government, goes to the state, sometimes comes directly to us. But both state and federal monies are dependent upon the census.
Let me just give an example. Our transportation projects, infrastructure. 30% of the money we receive for highway infrastructure comes from the federal government. That is based on the number of people that live in our state, here in the state of Texas. The number of people live in the Rio Grande Valley. So that money is distributed. I remind people that this is our money, our taxpayers' money, that we pay every year in terms of income taxes. So we want it to be sent back, and it's sent back based on the number of people that live in the community. That's why it's so important.
And you say the number of live, before there was a dispute as to whether or not citizens only, et cetera, and all that was on there. That's not the case anymore. Is if you're in this country right now, you need to fill out the census because it's really a civic duty, if you will, but it has nothing to do with whether you're a citizen or anything else because a lot of those programs serve all the people that live here, not just citizens of the United States.
That's correct. The information that's provided is confidential. And the census wants to count every person, regardless whether you're a U.S. citizen or a legal resident or are undocumented. And the reason it's important, again, because people are people, and the money distributed based on people. So if we have an undercount, that means we will be shortchanging our families. We'll be shortchanging our schools. We'll be shortchanging our money that we need for housing and transportation. So all across the board, the grants that our business community receives, the number of legislators and representatives we have in the capital in Austin and in Washington, D.C., this is why a census is so important.
Yeah, so that's make sure that everybody understands it. Fill it out. It doesn't hurt. It can't anybody do anything to you. It's really important you do it, and there's lots of ways of doing it. You could do it by paper. You could do it over the internet. You can even do it by telephone if you have to. And so there's no excuse, and there's no reason not to. And that's the most important thing, I think. There's no excuse. That's a civic duty, but there's no reason why you shouldn't. And if you don't, everybody pays that price.
That's correct, Mayor. I mean, there's no question being asked about citizenship. There's no questions being asked whether you are in this country legally or not. So those questions are not asked in the census questionnaire. So it's important. We all count, we all matter, and we all live in this community regardless. So we all need to be counted.
Now, you're getting ready to do the redistricting at the legislative session. Will that be done this session, or you have to have a special session later on?
Well, right now, the census has been slow, quite frankly, and we will probably, we didn't have any hearings throughout the state of Texas because of the pandemic, and we're required to hold hearings in different regions of the state of Texas. I'm vice chair of the redistricting committee. So now that means that more than likely we'll push the redistricting responsibilities to sometime this summer during a special session because the census has been slow and we need to push to make sure that we get our fair share of representation in Austin and in Congress.
And we talk about that. The pandemic's really changed a lot of things. It's slowed a lot of things down. But it's really no excuse for not filling out your census because you can do it at home. You can do it at home 2 ways, et cetera. And you also can mail it in, and if you want to get it mailed to you, you can do that too. So there's no reason you don't have to get out and do the census. You can stay in your home and do it and make sure if you stay protected. If you go to a community center or library, if you mask up, everybody will maintain 6 feet. So the pandemic should not be a reason not to fill out the census and get it in.
It's very easy to fill out a census form. It takes probably at the very max 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and you can do it through the internet. You can do it by phone, or you can just fill out the form yourself when you get it in the mail. So there's no reason to procrastinate. There's no reason not to do it. It has to be done and should be done. It's a responsibility that all of us have. To help our communities and help our friends and neighbors because we need to make sure that we get our fair share of federal tax dollars.
And I hesitate to even say this because I don't want people to think they can delay it. It's like voting. It's so easy to vote early voting, and a lot of people wait the last day, and then they have to vote election day and wait in line, and they complain about it. So right now, we have until September 30th, but we don't want you to wait. Don't wait till September 29th. Don't wait till September 30th. Do it right now. It's easy. You'll feel good about it, and you don't have to worry about it. You've done it, and so that's the best thing to do. So don't wait, and don't procrastinate.
That's right. We're going to run out of time, so please don't wait. Fill out the census form. It is so important, and we only do this every 10 years. And at the end of the day, it won't take too much of your time, and it's really, really a responsibility that we have to all of us.
And so, like you say, as a senator, there's so many senators in the state of Texas, and so your population naturally grows in a proportion. And what happens is, if you don't do it down here, then your district kind of spreads, right?
Correct.
And it's more difficult to represent 20 cities than it is 10 when you go in front of the legislature. I don't people understand that kind of complexity, but you're all up there fighting for funds for your state of Texas #1, but for your individual district, that's where it's really important. And so that affects your ability to get funds in our local community if you have to be spread among a much larger area, for instance.
It does. We only have 31 senators in the state of Texas. We have 150 House members. 10 years ago, we gained an additional House member here in the Rio Grande Valley, which gives us more of an influence, a more voice, a more say-so in Austin as the legislation we passed and the appropriations of funding. So that's important. And on the Senate side, we have 31 senators only, but we have a senator based out of the border, 4. Myself, Senator Eddie Lucio, Senator Severini, and Senator Rodriguez at El Paso. So it's important that we are counted. And yes, my Senate district is about close to 1 million people, and it'll continue to grow, but we don't want to lose the voice that we have in the Capitol or in Congress.
That's right. So if you support your senator, which you should, go fill out the census. That's part of all that. It has so many different effects. So if you support your state rep and your senator, and you want them to be able to fight for us more effectively in Austin, and for our congressman to fight for us more effectively in Washington, fill out the census.
I agree, and if I can do it myself, and I did it through my iPad, trust me, you can do it too.
And if you have kids going to school up north, make sure they fill out their census too. It's very easy to do. That's one of the questions they ask. So if you have adult kids up north, make sure they do it. Call your next door neighbor and see if they've done it, and if they haven't, you shame them into them doing theirs too. So come on and be a part of the civic movement to get the census done.
And on the forms, they're very short, simple questions, very easy to answer. So please do not be afraid and answer and fill out the form.
Remember what they always used to tell me in school when I never did my homework? There's no excuses. So there's no excuses. Do your census. Part of being a great citizen. Thank you.
Well, I agree, and I just hope that everybody fills out the census form. It is just extremely important.
Well, Senator, thank you for taking time out of your very busy day. We know you're always working for our community, and so really appreciate that. And this has been your meeting with the mayor. Thank you very much.